I'd like to call this meeting to order for the City of San Juan Commission today, Tuesday, February the 9th, 2016, at 6:03. If we can rise for an invocation. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for the blessing of this day. I pray that you be present with us as we make our decisions, that they bring honor and glory. And we pray, Heavenly Father, for the family of our employee, Javier Vela, that we lost this morning, who are in great pain of the loss, as we are too, Lord. We ask that you strengthen them and be with them in this time of trial. I'd like to ask us to just take a moment of silence as we offer our own prayer for the rest of Javier Vela and his family. In your name we pray. Amen. We can face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Ms. Sue, are there any public comments? Thank you. Mr. Ramiro Treviño, if you can come forward.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Commission.
Good evening.
Today, I bring before you a presentation. Right now, we're in the middle of basketball season, and we are fixing to start baseball in mid-March. What I mean by that, we'll have practice mid-March. We'll start our games the first weekend of April. Now, with our baseball program, there's a rich tradition and history with our pony baseball. And at this point, our program has grown to serve over 700 kids for the program. Now, for the city of our size, that's a significant number of participation, which means that we need to look at additional forms of revenue to help support that program in particular. At this time, we have allocated about $40,000 for both baseball and softball. But with the ever-growing expenses of maintaining the fields, with uniforms, with the tournaments that our children play in, the entry fees, and then of course the travel, the costs are quite significant. And since we have so many kids and we're playing, so many games, of course we need to pay for the officials, for the umpires, for the scorekeepers. That cost is very significant. So what we're proposing is that we go to traditional style advertisement, which you see in many ballparks across the country, both even at the minor league level. Well, of course, at the major league level, you have major sponsors. And we're looking to have signs that are 4x8 that we will offer to businesses throughout the community. that we'll be going for $300 a sign, and that sign would be put up at the park for a year's time, and if those businesses would elect to renew their sponsorship the following year, it would be sold at $200. At this time, we're starting with Mayfield, which we've figured out that it does at least, we could have at least 30 signs. Arcaute could have 48, and the third park that we plan to do, which we call Desert Storms, kind of picked up that nickname. It doesn't have an official name because it's actually on PSJ property, so they have the naming rights. We could fit 20. So our goal is to fill all three fields eventually with sponsorships. We are going out to the community. We've had some feelers as far as people who'd be interested. Last year when we were raising money for the All-Stars, several businesses approached me and asked me, he says, well, how come you guys don't do like the old methods of advertising, like on a T-shirt or the signs that used to be done in the past? So with that idea, we wanted to get a head start and try to re-engage those types of activities and that type of fundraiser. We have already had several business approaches that they would be willing to sponsor, and I present this to you today just to get any feedback, any questions, any type of additional input that you would like to add. One thing that we're in dire need of is we're in dire need of scoreboards. The scoreboards are fairly expensive. There's something we want to do during capital outlay, but of course, budget being what it is, it's something we have to sacrifice. But this is one way that we could raise money to possibly solicit a scoreboard. So we have a package together that we're sending out to the community once we're given the blessing, and we can go out and try to raise some money for our kids.
Very good.
So you guys are not doing this right now, as in this is brand new,
Yeah, we're not doing it right now, Commissioner. No, it hasn't been done in quite a while. So I couldn't tell you when was the last time it was done, but that's something we want to reintroduce so we could do it to raise money. But what I don't want to happen is what happened last year, where we're caught where we don't have enough money to support the program. And as you know, we need to buy new baseballs, new protective equipment, things like that, and we're trying to upgrade our fields as well, which also comes at a cost.
the sign painted on the fence?
Yeah, the sign, it's a 4x8 steel sign that we would mount on the fence.
So you mount it on the
Yes, sir.
fence?
Yes, sir.
But what's the price on the sign if a sponsorship was,
It would be $300 initially.
yeah, I understand that, but to make the sign, who's making the sign?
Roughly, it'd be about between $80 to $100, depending on the vendor we go with.
Okay, so then you're looking about $200
Yes, sir.
profit for
Yes.
each sign?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And will you be going out for bids on the making of the signs, or is there?
And actually, that's something that we have not visited. Possibly, depends on how many signs we get at a time. Depends on our procurement process, anything over $500. It just depends on how many we get out, but more than likely, we would go to bid for those signs. Yeah, we've gotten a few. We already had like 3 or 4 quotes from different places on what they could provide us. That's about the price range they're all
You
offering.
mentioned about the scoreboard, Mr. Ponce. What's the price range on those?
Between $4,000 to $6,000.
Ponce, can we get like a bank or some big, that might be interested in the school board where we give them advertisement?
Yes, that's actually something that we would like to do if we have your blessing. We don't want to approach one of our community partners without having the blessing of, and that's something that Mr. Arjona and I have, and that's why we're doing the presentation today. So if we do approach, say, Compass Bank used to sponsor. They have their scoreboard is there actually. It just doesn't work. So and that was years ago. So we have some other banks that we want to approach and possibly ask if they'd be willing to sponsor. We've also the first bank is our bank, Plains Capital, that we're going to approach and ask.
Now, is this 2 scoreboards? Just
We
for these?
would need 2 right now, yes. Yeah, we would, if we're raising the money on our own, we're going to focus on Mayfield. It's the most used park, but the Desert Storm Park also needs a scoreboard as well.
Does the business have to be specifically exclusive San Juan?
No.
Anywhere?
We'll take anybody's money, sir, Commissioner.
Why, yeah, I'm just-
And let's talk about the money taking. Council, one of the things that I want to make sure that when they are approaching anyone who would have an interest in sponsoring. How is the city able to, one, ask for money? How do you account for it? And how are they able to receive any kind of credit for having donated? There is no existing non-for-profit.
Well, then it probably won't be. It's going to be advertising. It'll be an advertising expense for them right off the bat. As far as accounting for city purposes, I think the question should be probably better addressed whoever does the financing. But as far as going forth and trying to get it, there shouldn't be any issues. I mean, you can go do whatever has to be done. I mean, I don't see any issues. Actually, but I do see one issue with what you were talking about, metal signs.
It's like a steel
Because
sign.
generally you have a buffer for safety.
Well,
Which is
it's
a
like,
different issue, but-
it's a very thin type metal. It's like they use it for these types of signs. The wooden ones deteriorate. I guess this is what they kind of use for this type of usage.
And I guess when we are looking and when you're working with the finance to do that, this advertising campaign per se would be handled strictly by the city of San Juan,
Yes.
staff, and then it's going to be earmarked so that sponsors know that if they're giving for this, they will get a product, and that money is going to go specifically to a purpose, and only for that purpose. So we would set up an account, is that correct, Mr. Garza?
Set up an account, that's correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I've worked with Mr. Garza and both with Mr. Orjona. We've talked about how we could, that would be specifically for, for the park improvements and for the programs.
What's important is that we trace it back, and so that when we ever get any question from any sponsor, they're going to see their sign, which is what they're interested in, but also that we're accountable that everything went for the purpose which you were raising.
So the only money going into that account is from the sponsorship? Is that how this works?
I would think that that's how it would work, and it would be specifically for what you just mentioned, for
Yes.
the games in the summer, correct?
Yes,
Nothing
it would be for, like, the All-Star Games. It would be also for any equipment that needs to be purchased. I'll give you an example, like throughout the year, sometimes we need to purchase additional tees, and especially for travel. Travel is where the big one, one team that travels will cost us at least $3,000, so that's a significant cost that we just can't support.
Football would also get a chunk of that, right?
We could allocate the football. For football, I need about 100 new helmets, and it's costly as well. Yeah, we're trying to make sure that safety is our number one priority. So we want to make sure that that's on the top of our list, that any funds that are allocated go towards purchasing the proper safety equipment.
Any other questions?
Also, if I may, Mayor and
Sure.
Commission, if somebody decides to purchase additional signs, more than one, the cost is going to be $300 for the first one and $200 for any additional. Am I
Yes,
right?
that's what we had
Yes.
decided on, yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Ponce. B, presentation by Mr. Steve Garsick from the Urban Safety Assessment, Inc. regarding the city's oil and gas well. Mr. Cervantes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I appreciate you giving me a few minutes of your time this evening. Can you pull that PowerPoint up for me? There you go. We are a firm out of North Texas, and we provide consultation and third-party, we're a consulting and third-party documentation company. And we work with municipalities and school districts across the state of Texas. And we specialize in oil and gas related activities. We also cover a broad range of safety and security related services for cities as well. I'm Steve Garski. I'm the managing partner. I've worked in the oil and gas industry for many, many years, have numerous certifications, security clearances with a number of major operators here in South Texas. Some of our associates, Brent Wilson, just to give you a little bit of background, Brent Wilson, our tax roll review expert, has worked on the Wise County Appraisal Board of Directors for 7 years. He was mayor for 5 terms, and he has served on city council. Ray Griffin is our pipeline inspector. Anything pipeline related, Ray knows. He knows the industry and business inside and out. Kevin Murphy as well is our petroleum engineer. He has a bachelor degree in petroleum engineering and petroleum engineering technology. And lastly, Dr. Kenneth Tram is our emissions and air quality expert. Dr. Tram is well known in the emissions field, environmental field. He has been a keynote speaker at a number of TML conferences, as recently as last spring up in Austin, I believe it was. Very well known in the community, has a master's and doctorate in environmental science and engineering and bioenvironmental sciences. So our goal at Urban Safety Assessment is to provide community leaders with the information necessary to make intelligent, informed decisions as related to the safety and security of their communities. We help them make analytical decisions versus emotional decisions. We help them be proactive versus reactive. Our services include oil and gas related ordinance development, third-party pipeline and well inspections, compliance documentation, permit review, environmental testing, and tax roll review looking for unappraised assets within the community. Okay, so oil and gas related ordinance development, we assist the community leaders in developing and refining their city ordinances to stay abreast of the latest technologies, regulations, and the latest rules in the industry. San Juan has a fairly comprehensive ordinance, oil and gas ordinance. It was developed in 1999. It is a good foundation to work from, but it is 16, 17 years old now. It does need some updating. And that's what we do. We help cities, we help identify criteria that promotes the health, safety, and welfare of your citizens. And we facilitate safe yet cost-effective oil and gas production within the city. And we act as an intermediary or a third party through between cities and local operators. So here are a couple well sites at opposite ends of the spectrum. The site on the left is not too far from here. It's within a city. It is actually less than 300 yards from their city hall. It is completely unregulated, unsupervised. You can't tell in the picture, but there in the middle of that site is kind of a black sludge pond, and it has been completely neglected. On the right-hand side, this is a site up in North Texas, been very well maintained. The operator has gone above and beyond in keeping it a safe, secure site and really maintaining the site in good condition. So part of what we do is perform physical on-site inspections. We look for, we do inspections for looking for safety and code compliance. Normally we will do semi-annual basis on oil and gas wells, and typically we will do pipelines on an annual basis, going over the right-of-ways of all the pipelines within the city. Compliance documentation on well sites is part of our services. We perform on-site inspections, again looking for safety, environmental, and compliance issues. This information is documented via our software, and the reports are submitted to the city management, the city staff, your first responders, and the operators. And part of this report includes a date, time, and location stamped report. In other words, it is certified that we were at this location on this day, at this time, and this is what we witnessed. These reports, along with the images and videos, are archived in our system. They're backed up in our system, as well as the cloud. And they are available as long as there is an agreement in place between the city and Urban Safety Assessment. Pipeline compliance. Urban Safety will create and manage a pipeline information management system for the city of San Juan. It includes image files, inspection documents, well operator provided documentation and certifications. And again, the routes are inspected annually, and we contact and have regular meetings with all the operators within the city. We make sure their certifications are kept current, and we ensure the operators are following the federally mandated public awareness programs. Those little cards that you get in the mail, that have documents or information regarding pipelines in your area, in your community, those are federally mandated. Drilling permit reviews, we will review any drilling permits that come through the city, oil and gas well drilling permits, that is. We assess the drill site, we review the plans and the drawings, we make sure the proper documents are filed with the city, and we monitor the drill site during and after construction for potential remediation purposes. We document road conditions, that type of thing, prior to and after construction. And as part of that report, we quantify the impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens in San Juan. Multi-well pad site permit review, which is something you would want to include in your new revised ordinance. It's a relatively new method of drilling wells. The old style or the old mindset, which is what San Juan has in their current ordinance, you have one well, one block of property. Well, with the horizontal technologies these days, the new method of thinking is on these well sites is to get them all incorporated into one area of a rancher's property or of a piece of property. Instead of having them scattered all across the rancher's property, they can put those wells all in one area and drill horizontally. And again, we assess proposed pad sites, look at plats and drawings, and again, make sure all the documents are filed with the city. Pipeline planning is pretty much the same thing. We assess the right-of-ways prior to permit issuance. We review plats and drawings, monitor construction activities, and assess the site after construction. And again, something you would want into your new ordinance would be as-built drawings and certifications, if you don't already have that. Environmental testing. Again, Dr. Tram is the ultimate expert in this area. We can do air quality testing, doing up and downwind air sampling, looking for volatile organic compounds, including benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, other poisonous gases and compounds. And we do this through optical imaging as well as discrete monitors. We can set up perimeter monitoring on a well pad or a well site looking for H2S or poisonous gas, making sure gases aren't being emitted from that well site. And if we need to, we can set up long-term monitors to collect receptor-based data, collecting VOC counts, ozone, particulate matter, and that type of thing. And we can also assist with water analysis, groundwater analysis and testing, and soil and groundwater remediation. And lastly, tax roll review. Tax roll review, we have had great success in the last few years. Very often, completed wells or mineral assets are either completely omitted or miscoded on the county tax roll. And very often they are missed, and the city can lose or miss thousands of dollars over the years in tax dollars that should be coming from the county. What we do is we take lease maps, we take surface maps, we take real estate property maps, we combine 4 or 5 different sources, and we compare those to the latest certified tax roll, and we make sure every tax dollar that San Juan should be getting is getting through the certified tax. And it's not necessarily that an operator is trying to avoid paying taxes or purposely trying to cover anything up. More often than not, it's just a miskey at the county level. In other words, that operator may be paying taxes to the county and for emergency response, but they may not be paying City of San Juan taxes. So that's kind of a nutshell, a real quick overview of our services. If you have any questions, I would be glad to take them.
Are there any questions? I have a few. Now, this is for Mr. Cervantes, and I'll have some questions for you. Can you come forward, please? Cervantes, some of the things that he has spoken about for identification, documentation, and assessments. Are these wells that are currently operational, and is something that we have had others take a look at these before, or what is happening?
Well, we have several wells inside the city. We have also wells just outside the city that we could annex, that we're missing out on tax dollars. But we don't really have the qualification to inspect these wells. Also, what we could do through the upgrade of the ordinance is we could require annual inspections. So the fees that the company will charge to do these inspections, we can make the companies pay, and also charge an administrative fee for us to process these things. So it's also, we could also generate revenues from making these companies conduct these annual inspections. So what the companies will pay to the city will cover their fees, and also we will make some money on the administration. But the ultimate goal is to have a safe city. A lot of some of the wells, you have houses right next door. I mean, on South San Antonio, you have houses right next to so in my opinion, it's a good thing to do, to amend the ordinance, make these companies do these inspections.
So currently with the ordinances that we have, 'cause I didn't see a copy of the ordinance in here, but the ordinances that we currently have, what type of regulation duties does it give the companies, and who are they reporting to?
I think it deals mostly with, like, if a new well wants to come in, there's a process in there. There's also regulations on how far away they have to be from a residential area. But there's nothing in there about annual.
You currently call for annual inspections, but from what I understand, they have not been done over the years.
When you speak of mandates, federal mandates, are those imposed upon the companies as they're setting up for the life of the well, or is that something upon just initial setting?
The federal mandate that I mentioned deals strictly with pipelines.
Okay.
Your overall ordinance and compliance that you would want would be at the local level, but that federally mandated public awareness program is something that's been in place for years. And basically what it says is these pipeline operators need to make sure the general public is aware of their pipelines that are in their vicinity, and make sure they understand what to do in case of an emergency and that type of thing.
Okay,
That's what
so,
I'm referring to.
so of that, how much of that responsibility lies, is it the company that has to take that initiative and make that investment in informing the community? Or is there something that is shared by the city itself? Where does the liability lie?
That particular mandate would be federally regulated. All we would be doing at the city level is making sure they are following those federally mandated rules and guidelines.
So there's not a federal agency body that comes and takes a look at existing wells and then goes to the company and says, this is not in compliance?
It's kind of like the trucking industry. I mean, there are rules and guidelines in place, and if something happens, they will send somebody out to take a look at the problems and the issues. But as a regular common practice, there is nobody looking at the wells, no.
And at the state level either?
Not at the state level either. Until there is an issue, you will most likely not see anybody reviewing or inspecting these wells.
So as far as the city and what current practice may be, we're not in any type of
No, I mean,
requirements.
if something happens, I think, in my opinion, the liability falls on the company. But I think it will be good for the city to be proactive and have these things inspected.
How many do you see? How many are there in the city?
Yeah, you said several. Right now, Mr. Cervantes, wells in the city, what's several?
I'm thinking 12 to 15. It's kind of hard to tell at this point without really digging in and looking. A lot of wells are shut in. A lot of them are plugged and abandoned. So there's a lot of clutter when you look at the records. And until you really dig in and physically look at the actual well site itself, it's really kind of hard to tell. But I'm guesstimating somewhere between 12 and 20 wells.
How long would it take for you, sir, to come up with this proposal?
Formal proposal forwarded to the council, I'd be happy to do that, could probably do it in a week.
Are you the only ones that provide the service? Are there other companies?
We're the only ones that we have found that provide a comprehensive service. The ordinance development, the well inspections, the tax roll review, all those combined, we're the only ones that I'm aware of that does that.
I thought that any well that was shut down or that it was the Railroad Commission that would had some interest in, what kind of,
Railroad Commission will regulate anything downhole, and that's something that needs to be clear. The city does not want to get into regulating pressures, bond depths, cementing depths, that type of thing. They don't want to be looking at bond logs, downhole information. What the city wants to do is make sure the well is fenced, make sure kids are not able to get in there and hurt themselves, animals, make sure within reason that there's not going to be some kind of explosion, try and keep the environmental side of things in check. That's really what the city would be looking for. Up until recently, the city had a lot of leeway, and you probably understand, but they had a lot of leeway to regulate what these operators could and could not do on a well site. Well, HB 40 came through last year, the big fight between the Railroad Commission and the city of Denton, and the state stripped a lot of those regulations that the city could regulate and control. But the city does still have the full right to make sure those well sites are safe and secure. And that's generally what we do. We look at the ground up.
And also apparently some of these wells are just outside the city, but within our ETJ. So we're missing out on property taxes by not having that area inside the city. So they could help us evaluate that.
well, normally the appraisal district is charging, you know, a value of the taxes on those oil wells, or isn't it? The appraisal district puts a value on that, those oil.
If they catch it, and just because, and not to get real complicated and technical, but just because a wellhead is, the wellhead does not need to be within the city limits in order for the city to receive tax dollars on that well. It has to do with leases, it has to do with leased properties, and that type of thing. So, yes, 95% of the time, those assets are caught, they're appraised, and they're paying the taxes that they should be paying. That other 5% is where we come in and clean up, and tax appraiser picks up the dollars, we like to pick up the nickels and dimes. for
But
the
they need
city.
to be inside the city.
The lease has to be within the city boundaries, yes. The wellhead does not. You may have a wellhead that's a mile outside the city boundaries, you may still be eligible for tax dollars from that well.
Of those 12 that you spoke of, Mr. Cervantes, 12 to 15, are those all within the city limits, though?
Yeah, and then we have others just outside in our ETJ.
And when you come and do the assessment and you would say you would propose to the company you need to fence up, it's part of an ordinance, so your assessment would be a one-time deal, is that correct? And you would be
We
done?
would normally do that on a semi-annual basis, some cities do it on an annual basis. It will be a maintenance thing that you will want to keep on going, not just do a one-time look and then quit. It's something you're going to want to maintain and should maintain.
So, yeah, basically, once a year, we will send a letter to the company that they're due for their annual inspection. There will be a fee that they will have to pay, maybe, just to throw a number, maybe $500, which will cover their fees and then an administrative fee for the city.
And that's kind of a common practice in most of the bigger cities. The operators expect to pay an annual inspection fee or an annual fee of some kind to keep operating within that city. It's not an uncommon practice by any means.
Do you know of any wells that are shut, that are inside the city that are abandoned already? We kind of need to identify that, because I know when we did Southwest School District, but when they start building it, they found a dead oil well in the.
But if the
and
gas
then you have to
prices
get
go
a
up,
ruling from the Railroad Commission to be able to shut it down or seal it. And there was a lot of red tape going in through that. Yeah, and
That is part of what we would do. We would provide the city with a map that shows all the abandoned wells. The procedures are changing for plugging and abandoning wells. Years ago, as you just mentioned, basically what an operator would do, he'd go down 8, 10 feet, cut the pipe off, pour it full of cement, and cover it up. And they're changing those regulations so that very scenario doesn't happen. They want a permanent marker on these abandoned well sites now. It has to be cut off, I believe it's 5 to 7 feet below the surface. And they want a permanent steel marker sticking above the ground so that when the school district goes to buy some property, they can either plan their building around that abandoned well or go somewhere else. But yes, there are numerous plugged and abandoned wells throughout the city.
Any other questions? No. Thank you. Under public hearings and ordinance A, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance in the first reading for a conditional use permit to operate a drive-through business restaurant in a commercial area legally described as Lot 2, Cassie McClure subdivision located 111 West FM 495 as requested by Luis Orozco. Mr. Cervantes.
Orozco is requesting a conditional use permit for a drive-through window in a proposed deli shop in one of the suites of the commercial plaza under construction located just west of the Walgreens along West FM 495. The proposed hours of operation will be Monday through Sunday from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Staff sent notices to property owners within 200 feet, and we received one phone call in opposition to the request. The project will generate additional sales taxes for the community. During their meeting of January 21st, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval unanimously for this drive-through window.
I'd like to go ahead and open this public hearing at 6:40. Are there any members of the audience who wish to make any comments for or against? Any members of the audience who wish to make comments for or against? Any members of the commission that have any questions? Mr. Cervantes, one of the things that was raised, as I saw from the minutes of the planning and zoning, was the ingress and egress for the drive-through.
Yes.
And going into Maria Lane, and you know, we have some problems in trying to get out there with the Walgreens and now this other one. What do you see as the type of volume you would be looking at and the challenges, and how are we addressing that for the residents as well?
You can go to the site plan, please. Back there. Yes, this came up during the Planning and Zoning Commission. The proposal is to have this is the suite that we're talking about here.
Right.
And this is the proposed window. So the traffic will come in through here, purchase the sandwich, and then exit on Maria Lane. The proposal is going to increase the traffic a little bit on Maria Lane. Well, something that we discussed is that because, as you know, there's vacant properties to the west of this property. There's still vacant land that is available for development. Something that we could discuss is for future subdivisions to the west of this property during the subdivision process to prohibit access to Maria Lane, so that future development will not be allowed to use Maria Lane. Because if this continues to happen further to the west, it's going to be a lot more traffic on that street.
Now, did you all, or did the owner going around through the back? That's parking, is that parking? But
This is a proposed parking for the owners and for the employees. So the proposal is for them to drive from Raul Longoria this way, and then drive this way, and then park like this, and then exit this way.
The access to the property from Maria Lane will be 2 entrances?
This is the entrance, and this
Okay.
is the exit.
And they'll be marked as such?
Yes. Like I said at the Planning and Zoning Commission, in my opinion, 90 to 95% of the traffic going to this plaza is gonna come in on
Right.
495 and exit on 495. There is gonna be a little bit of traffic doing this thing and exiting on Maria Lane if they wanna use the window. So the residents on Maria Lane will be impacted a little bit with additional traffic. But if we prohibit new subdivisions to the west to access Maria Lane, I think the impact will be minimal.
And are they going to have access to the Walgreens entrance? Is it going to be connected?
Yeah, I mean, you could go from here and then access the Walgreens parking lot.
So-
Not from here.
How about from the back?
Yes, I think there's an
It'll be
entrance-
open into
Yeah,
Walgreens? So they could actually go through
Yes.
Walgreens and
Yes, they
come
could.
back out this way?
yes.
And how many shops, how many places do they have?
Well, the plaza is 12, I think,
12?
12 suites. Some of them, no, it's 9 suites. But sometimes the businesses get combined. Sometimes businesses take 2 suites.
But they'll all be parking in the back, right?
Well, the parking in the back is for the owners and for the employees, and then for the customers, it's in
Yeah,
the
but I'm
front.
saying for those 9 suites,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah, it's for the customers in the front, on 495.
So if we, and one last question for me. Now, if you're stating about future growth, if we were to go to the west, would there be any type of issues that you allow these folks to do it and the next you don't?
I
We
mean,
do it by, well, we do it by what, by ordinance? We do it by restrictions?
no, I mean, subdivisions are handled on a case-by-case basis, and there's already discussion about concerns for the people that live on Maria Lane. So I think based on those concerns that we have discussed, to prohibit access to Maria Lane for future development to the west of this property will be justifiable. And if anybody comes into my office inquiring about these properties, I will tell them up front that most likely the city will prohibit access to Maria Lane. It will be only on 495.
And now for the, where they're gonna have the fence, you said it's not gonna be a cedar fence? They're
Well,
not required to
the
have
buffer fence is only when you have a property right behind, like you have residential properties just right behind the commercial properties. In this case, you have a street, so there's really no place to put a buffer fence.
That's all the questions I have. Does anybody have any other questions? If not, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I need to close the public hearing at 6:46, and the same time that we took our action on motion. Item B, consider authorizing the planning director to submit an ordinance to the commissioners considering update the 1978 flood prevention ordinance. Mr. Cervantes.
Yeah. I've been approached by officials from FEMA lately, and they tell me that I guess like our oil and gas, we need to update also our flood prevention ordinance. Our flood prevention ordinance goes back to 1978, and we're basically doing what is required of us for on new building permits. Every time there's a house in a flood zone, we require an elevation certificate. So we're doing everything that we're supposed to do, but they're asking us to update our ordinance. The city basically doubled in size since 1978, so they're asking us to update our flood prevention.
Include all the areas that were not
Yes, to
at the
include,
time of,
exactly.
okay.
So if it's okay with the commission, I request authorization to start working on that, and then in 2 or 3 months, I will bring it before you for your consideration.
Very good. Are there any questions? Not, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Contractual resolutions. A, consider adoption of a master plan for the city's Ridge Road property that would allow the construction of police substation at the site. It's recommended no action at this time. We were not able to have the workshop, so we will leave it for the next agenda. Item B, consider authorizing renewing the contract for electricity with the Texas Coalition for Affordable Power, Inc. from January 1st, 2018, termination December 31st, 2022. Mr. Garza.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission.
Good evening.
Our current contract with TCAP, it's going to expire on December 31st, 2017. And for those of you that don't know what TCAP is, we use TCAP to procure the electricity for the city. Okay. We currently have a price of 0.07485 per kilowatt. And what they are offering right now, it's a price of 0.0416, which is almost 50% less than what we're currently paying, right? The contract, we need to submit the new contract by February 25th. It's going to start on January 2018, and it's going to be a 5-year contract. What we need to do is assign 3 signatories. We're going to be getting a conference call so we can lock in the price and then sign off on the contract.
And you said this would be starting this year or effective as of the expiration of this one?
Expiration.
It's going to effective as the expiration date on January 1st, 2018.
Okay.
And what they're doing, ma'am, it's, they're requesting the information so they can take it before their board, and then they're locking the pricing. It's a substantial savings on a yearly basis when we do this. So it's something that is very positive for the city to move forward on.
Savings 50%?
It's more or less 50%, and we're talking about 173,000 per year.
Starting at 18.
18, yes.
18, correct.
Very good.
We're currently paying per year 391,000
Wow.
for electricity.
Very good, Mr. Garza. Council, it's a 5-year contract. That would be like with a renewal, since we cannot have a contracts more than a year.
Generally, it's going to be budgeted. Can you explain to us what a TCAP is?
It's the company that we use to procure the electricity for the city.
That's just an individual company, and I'm trying to remember, there was the organization between the municipalities and all that stuff. That's not the one?
That's the one.
That's
It's
what
called the
it's called.
Texas
Okay.
Coalition of Affordable Act.
Mayor, I wouldn't be concerned about with the issue of commitment of current revenues only. It's got, the revenues are going to be budgeted. We know we need the electricity. It's not like a contract for,
Well, it says renewing the contract. That's the only reason I'm asking.
I wouldn't concern myself.
So leave it as how they're proposing it. It's an annual renewal, I suppose.
No, this is actually a
Commitment for
5-year
5.
contract.
5 years.
Okay.
And at the rate of half, so.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
All right. Any other questions? Not, is there a motion for approval as presented? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Garza. C, consider the adoption of the City of San Juan's organizational chart, amend the classification and compensation plan and current operating budget. Mr. Arjona.
Yes, Mayor, Commission, this is the item that was brought before you on the last meeting for the Department of Public Works and Sanitation. We talked about splitting the duties of the directors. And we have before you, I've got the breakdown of the personnel.
Go to the organizational chart, but make sure you turn it around so that we can see it.
One more. That's-
ahead.
Yes, this is the new proposed organizational chart. As you can see, we split the utilities department on one side with the different divisions, which is the administration, the wastewater, sewer collection, the water plant. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Public Works would be the administration, the streets and the alleys. And sanitation is administration, central garage, the brush and trash, and the recycling. Those are the two departments that were split. that we're proposing to adopt.
Okay, go into the budget.
And on the budget, the last time that we talked about this, it was the Public Works Director that we're adding that particular salary. So if you look on the, where it says add, remove, and total, we're adding a position there for 55,000. However, based on the on the remaining 16 pay periods that we currently have here, we're looking at about 20,646 that we're gonna be hitting our stormwater fee account that we talked about. And the rest of it will be from the general fund. However, notice how we have that parenthesis under the general fund, 13,200, that's the remaining balance for the receptionist clerk that is there. So we're moving those funding into the sanitation account, which is not gonna give us a hit. So at the end, the general fund is only gonna be impacted by $236. And the stormwater fee on a yearly basis, or this particular 16 pay periods that we currently have is gonna be at 47,000. 47,945. And which actually on the sanitation side will have a savings of about 891. From the stormwater fee, we talked about $20,700 a month. If we multiply that times 12 months, we're looking at 248,000 a year that we're supposed to be collecting. However, we're purchasing the sweeper, that on the monthly basis, we're paying 10,444. If we're estimating about maybe 7 months left between now and when we purchase when we actually get the sweeper. So we're looking at about 73,000 that we're gonna be spending by the end of the fiscal. That plus the 47,000 for 945 for the salaries on the Public Works Director, we're looking at about 121,000 combined. If we take away the 248,000 that is allocated for the stormwater fee on the yearly basis, we're looking at about 126,942 that we're gonna have left over for the supplies, for the asphalt, already paying
Where
the.
you looking at that number?
Oh, those are notes that I made.
No, I can't see it.
And it's probably on the previous page from the last time, ma'am. Those are the estimated revenues on the monthly basis and the yearly.
Okay, so just so that I can understand for me, in a simplistic way, we are looking at adding under sanitation or public works, one or the other, that we're establishing one additional directorship position.
That is correct.
And the numbers that you were quoting, you're looking at the one that hits the general fund, correct?
That is correct.
And that would be the public works.
That'll be the Public Works.
Okay. So the impact on the public works overall for added expense is how much?
For any expenses, it's 236.
Okay. Because you said you're taking the water from the stormwater that would have gone
I'm taking the recycling, the receptionist,
receptionist,
Right.
and you're putting her under
sanitation.
sanitation.
Right.
And she's going to be able to do what she's doing currently?
Currently
Or is she
doing.
adding any new duties?
No, it's whatever she's currently doing.
Okay.
In other words, that position should have been, in my opinion, should have been under the sanitation department and not the general fund, because it falls under the sanitation.
Okay. And the other position that was in existence before, the second tier, from Mr. Gonzalez, there was another position?
Oh, the Public Works Coordinator?
Yes.
That one's gonna stay the same. And we're supposed to add pretty much he's gonna be doing the same thing as what he's currently doing. Public Works Coordinator / sanitation.
If we have two directors, why do we need a coordinator? I mean, we're adding one more person,
Right,
and we're adding the expense of one more person.
right. My whole philosophy was that, to help out in the department, on both directors. Helping the duties and the responsibilities for, pretty much directing the people, working with the people.
And how much more are we adding because of keeping that position open?
We're not,
No, I know, because we could have had a savings if we had not eliminated that. So
Right.
we're taking it out from where? How are we coming up with that so we can pay that extra fee?
We are removing also a heavy truck driver, which that's gonna free some funds, right? So those funds are gonna cover the new receptionist clerk that we're gonna be moving from the general fund to the sanitation account.
that heavy truck
And how much was
driver,
the heavy truck driver making?
it's anywhere between 24, 27.
Okay, so if we're buying extra trucks, which is what we're doing, we're buying, I believe it's 2 that we just authorized, sanitation trucks.
Right.
Right? So are you saying that with the 2 extra and the existing functioning trucks, we're not going to need the truck driving position?
Well, the trucks that we're actually purchasing is actually to pretty much replace some of the ones that, not replacing completely, but put them aside so that we can actually work on them. So if in case one of them breaks down, we have about maybe 6, maybe 7 trucks.
How many drivers do we have?
Here we go. I've got 6 heavy truck drivers on the sanitation side and 1 on the public works side, plus 9 heavy equipment operators.
Okay, so is it that special license for driving these trucks?
CDL, yes,
CDLs, okay. And how many, all 6 are CDLs and that Public Works, correct?
they should be, yes.
They're the only ones,
They're the only ones.
okay. And we have 6 trucks that are functioning at one time?
Actually, we're supposed to have 7. but
Functioning
ti-
at one time.
At one time.
Okay. So if, with all the new trucks and the existing, we're not going to have a need for an additional truck driver?
Right,
You know that?
right. We can do without them. Because like I said, the trucks that are not gonna be operational at all of them at the same time. We're gonna start doing the rotational, for maintenance purposes.
How many heavy equipment drivers did you say you have?
Heavy equipment, there's 9 on the sanitation side and 2 on the public works side, which is your streets and alleys.
And between the 2, how is it that you're proposing, Mr. Arjona, that the need for that person stay? What is it that you're proposing would be different if we're bringing a brand-new director?
On that particular, Mayor, it's the, let's say, for instance, they need to go buy some parts. He'll be the one in charge for coordinating the purchasing of the parts, the asphalt, and all of the material that is involved between the 2 departments. Now, the department director will be the one responsible for overseeing the whole function of the department.
Do we have a job description already?
No, not yet. We're waiting on your blessing so that we can work on a job description for the public works director.
And for the person that would do that second tier that you want, is that the existing description, or are you going to add some new, how are you going to do that? Are you going to add some new responsibilities, or?
It'll be just rewording it, not only just for, because right now his title, if I'm not mistaken, is Public Works Coordinator. So we're going to make it a Sanitation Public Works Coordinator. So we'll include some wording there that has to do specifically with sanitation as well.
And it is your opinion that we have to have that position?
It'll be my recommendation.
And we're looking at how much with the cost, again, tell me?
On that particular
Uh-huh.
position, we're looking at 35.
35.
35 plus 35.
The driver for the sweeper, Mr. Arjona, would fall under what category?
That'll be under the Public Works. Public Works, Public Works.
Public Works? Heavy truck driver, heavy equipment operator? Or is it something different?
It'll probably be a heavy truck driver.
You wouldn't need additional
manpower for that?
Well, the thing is that right now we have the sanitation on one side with those staffing. We can always move it to the other side so that they can do the sweeping of the streets. Right now, we're using, well, they're using some of the drivers are using for labor type of work. So we're hoping that once we get this established, we'll do a structure where those employees are only doing what they're supposed to be doing, not mixing and matching different responsibilities, unless it's needed.
Well, I think as we talk about the next section, we're gonna see how it's needed. You know, I'm excited of the thought that we would definitely have a more focused department so that we do have somebody overseeing on the sanitation and have a director to be looking at that. And one on public works. I think that we've seen over time that because of the growth and because of the demands and the needs on the community, that we definitely need to have restructuring. And so I definitely agree with the two directors. I'm not necessarily sold on the extra position. I think when we had one director and all these necessary, all these divisions, you'd see the next tier. But when I'm looking at just bringing another tier when we're about to get two directors, we haven't seen how that's going to be working. Now, over in the utilities, we'd have a second tier from you?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. After me, we have the crew leaders. in the
And how
field.
many are you responsible for?
Total 20.
20. Those are just my questions. I just, I believe that we definitely need the two directors. I'm not sure on the second position. I'm just not sure. You're stating that you're recommending and you think it's needed, and you think it's needed because they need help ordering parts.
Well, not necessarily ordering the parts, but pretty much overseeing what the director is not working on, but, you know, it's the wish of the commission, and to see if you want to keep it that way, we can always make it into, instead of canceling the truck driver, we can put him as a truck driver, but it's your all's wish.
And unfortunately, we don't have a director to be able to
Right,
assess that.
right.
So you're doing it just by proposal.
We can put a mayor as a truck driver, and when we get the position, the public works director, he can do an assessment. The position is still going to be there, and it's just a matter of moving it back to different responsibility.
Well, I'd like to talk to one of the other, I mean, we can definitely take it for a vote. I know there's another item that we're going to discuss regarding the cleanup of the city. And I think I've gotten a sense of what that's going to cost us, and that might make us look at, you know, any type of cost savings that we might need to incur. But it's just, my thoughts are those. I just, not sure how we need the next tier when we've got one brand-new directorship position. So you're asking for authorization to establish the two directors and their description, so you can go out and do, advertise for the positions. Yes, and then the other one we don't have to advertise for. Could we be able to, once we have our directors, can we do allowing this position temporarily?
Yes, we can do it.
As a temporary measure? Can we do that? Can we label it temporary, or has to be labeled as a permanent position for the?
Temporary, as long as the employee understands that, you know, once the commission decides that it may be different than. You
A
can't put on
1 year.
temporary, I'm sorry?
So we could say that position would be for a year upon the assessment of the directors, and the director can then state, you know, looking at the needs that
Talking
we
about a
have.
temporary assignment, not necessarily
Temporary
temporary as
assignments.
in temporary, okay.
And it might be that it evolves into a permanent, but without the directors having that assessment to say, we do need that extra person, because we're gonna have a brand-new person. And so that brand-new person has a directorship position, so they have, I would say, the ability to structure their department as needed, and then assess it if we need, because what I remember y'all saying at the last meeting was that our folks were doing all the cleanup, and we're done by 1, which is great. So now we actually have a little bit more time to maybe direct them in something else that the city might be needing as far as their job duties. So that's why I'm, you know, not knowing how the demand on that new director is going to be, can we really assess right now that we need 1 extra person? And and of course, you don't ever want to leave anybody without a job. But we're looking at what is in the best interest of the city and the directorship. Can we approve it with this position being available for, I mean, I would say 6 months, and then come back and assess it, and then maybe then the director can say, absolutely, we need it, or you know what, that's not the position I need. I actually need something else that's going to help us do this.
Allow the new director an opportunity to assess his department and the needs of the department, and then come back to the commission and make his recommendation.
And make a recommendation. We would, of course, we need that person now because there's nobody there.
Right.
And so we would not take the person out, but also allowing that position to exist while the assessment gets made, and then come back. Because, I mean, we've got 2 new, and to put another tier, I'm not sure that we're there yet.
How
But
much
that-
time are you willing to give that director once he or she comes on board?
I mean, I
6
think, you know,
months?
they're in
Or a year?
probation for how long? How long do we have them in
6 months.
probation?
6 months.
6
So,
months, and then evaluate.
Give them a 6-month time to be able to get into their position, to understand it, and then come back and be able, at that time,
Assessment after that?
to make an assessment, so that that position is available for 6 months upon extension, once the director is in place.
We can definitely entertain that.
That's what I want to recommend that to the commission, just so that we are certain we're not just creating extra jobs that we may not necessarily need because we haven't had the extra director yet.
Does this individual have licenses for like to drive the heavy equipment, machinery and all that stuff?
He does.
He does?
He's got a CDL, if I'm not mistaken.
Because, you know, I mean, to utilize them, you know, in different areas, you know, it's something that we need
Right.
to look into as well. So,
No, he does hold a CDL license.
he does?
Yes, sir.
So in case one of these guys, you know, for some odd reason, you know, they don't come in, or
He can take
he
over,
can
right.
jump into the truck and.
Sure. And I think that's what he used to do before. He was a heavy equipment truck driver? Okay.
Is there a motion to authorize the commission, the city manager to go ahead and approve the organizational chart, the classification, compensation plan, and current operating budget regarding the Public Works Department and sanitation, and also with the 6-month period of assessing the necessity for the existing position to remain? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay. I lost my agenda. Under D, discussion and action on termination of the engineering services with Cruz Hogan Consultants and city engineer. I requested that the item be put on the agenda, and I'm asking that we go out for, which is the next one, to get competitive bidding and to allow maybe through the consideration of the next item, a rotation, so that we'd be able to have that available for the city and any cost savings that might come by being competitive.
Mayor, actually, we cannot do competitive bidding on this one. This is, falls under the Professional
Okay.
Services Procurement Act.
But we can negotiate.
That's correct.
Maybe that's the word I should have used. And I know that we have current contracts with the city engineer existing. He would remain on those to, if he'd been awarded that project?
Should you decide to terminate his services, if he has other contracts that he's working on, of course, it'd be kind of difficult to remove him, Brian.
All right, so he would remain on the existing ones that he was awarded the projects? And then we would, and there's a 30-day clause, counsel? Is there anything that we need to do?
Generally, just a letter, and as professional services, generally, we know, for example, myself, if you're not wanted anymore, you leave. That's pretty much what happens. Send them a letter, and that should suffice.
Okay, so as of today's vote, whatever comes, then if there is a termination, consideration of termination, then you would issue out a letter?
Definitely.
Okay.
The council has voted to terminate your services.
And give them the 30-day notice, is that correct? Okay,
However, I don't think the services will be needed for 30 days. Generally, that's the way it works.
no. He would just be informed that he would remain on the existing projects. All right,
Well, he's not being terminated on those, so I guess he
Right.
should know it's just for the city
city
engineer
purposes,
services.
okay. Is there a motion to that effect?
One question, ma'am.
Go ahead.
What is his responsibilities as far as the water plant is concerned? Is he on contract, or is he on contract?
That's his
for that?
project.
Okay, just making sure.
Any other questions? Not, is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Motion passes. F, consider authorizing the city manager to enter to request a statement of qualifications for city engineer. Is there a motion to that effect?
Or in this one, are we going for RFQs for engineering?
Yes.
And how many RFQs are we be accepting?
Just as many as people apply.
As a finalist?
Oh,
Are we gonna, if there's 10 applying, are we gonna accept 3 or 5 and have them on a rotating basis?
I guess when we see who the applicants,
Okay.
if we feel that, they're qualified and we have a need for a rotation basis, then I believe we can make that decision at that time.
Now, will they come up in front of the commission and?
We can do it
Do
several
like that.
ways. I know that it can be by committee. We have members of our staff from different areas can come and look at the qualifications. We've done that before and come back with us with the top 5, or depending on how many apply, or if you wish, have them all come before the commission. So it could be done either way. And you can state that in your motion.
So move.
And are we moving for,
RFQs on
okay.
engineering.
And just to clarify on your motion, would you state that that will also be by means of ranking by committee or through the
Yeah,
commission?
ranking by committee and, probably select the 3 top engineers to have in the rotation basis.
That is your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Motion passes. F, consider authoring the city manager to enter into a contract with a brush debris company to do one-time pickup of residential brush debris, which will include the debris and brush drop-off site at Hall Acres. I know Ms. Gonzalez is not here, we'll take care of that.
Yes, on the last meeting, you gave me permission to go out for quotes. We were only able to get a couple of quotes from 2 different companies. And here they are. This is the, got a couple of proposals, one from Waste Management, the other one is Republic Services. The gentlemen are here. As to what we're able to bring in from them is the cost per trip and the tonnage, but the gentlemen are here, you'd like to ask any questions?
That's crazy.
Yes.
So, how many are, I'm looking at the estimated loads of 1350. Is that from the entire city, or is that just the landfills?
That's only from the brush drop site.
Okay. Mr. Arjona, there had been a time that we had talked to a company in one of our,
The mulching company?
yes,
They were not able to come over until March, if I'm not mistaken.
they can come in March?
They can come in March. They're gonna be here at the neighboring city, doing some
And they
work.
give an estimation about, I think it was like 90,000?
Something like that.
to do the work.
Right.
And that would take care of the,
That's what they estimated,
at that time.
Right.
For the landfill. Not the landfill, it is a holding site.
the holding
Now,
drop-off site.
the holding site, when they talked about that, they knew that that would be mixed. It wasn't going to be strictly brush. They understood that.
That is correct.
So, and they would be the only company south of Austin that does that.
That's the only company, right.
And that comes down in this area.
That is correct.
So we're looking at also timelines. I know that you were on TV last night talking about this, and you mentioned 3 months. And I want to know, where did you get 3 months?
Well, 3 months, it was just an estimated if in case that we were to go with a hauling company.
Okay, now, as far as the ability of our residents to bring brush, what is TCQ saying is a time frame that we have to make sure we clean up the,
They haven't given us a response yet, ma'am.
and so what options are we giving our folks at this time?
Like we stated on the last meeting was that we're setting up containers, a roll of containers at the quadrant where they're picking up the brush.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, tomorrow they're gonna be at the Bears Trail, picking up that area, so there's gonna be a container there.
Okay, and how can a resident know that that's the place? How are we doing? Can we do that through
We're gonna do it through-
advisements through our,
We're gonna do it through social media, through our website and Facebook.
So at one time, didn't they have containers that they recycle for?
Those, we've got containers, but those are not the ones that the trucks actually pull in. It's supposed to be a certain, a particular roll-off, what they
Well,
call
there
a
was a
roll-off
roll-off
container.
at one time that people could go throw their wood or rotten debris, and, you know, 'cause I know it was close to my house, and I would see that container for weeks and weeks, and they would
Right.
put it there weekly, and then they would pick it up.
Right.
You know, maybe that, we could look at that where we could put other excess for other public can
The,
have.
yes, Commissioner, and that is correct. They used to do that. However, at the recycling center, it's only for recycling. We don't have a permit for that particular purpose. Once we clear the whole brush, debris and all that from the drop-off site, TCQ stated that at that point, then we can apply for a permit for that particular purpose. And yes, it can be done. But for right now, we don't have a permit that allows anybody to dump any type of waste or materials, construction, anything. It's just a brush drop-off site, and the recycling center is only for recycling. Yes.
now, what could we have available? I mean, the propositions here are for 732,000, which is, I
Right.
can't even consider it. The other one is close to 1 million. Now, as far as if we have overtime, what if we were able to have our employees work on weekends to be able to concentrate, one, during the week, continue on the pickup that we service that we give our residents, and then be able to, on weekends, concentrate on filling up the roll-ups for Monday morning, because I don't know if the landfill's open on,
It's open only until, if I'm not mistaken, noon. So
Until
they were working.
Or 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock?
okay.
So we had them work these past weeks, catching up on whatever we can.
And that would come from the sanitation fund?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I guess what I would like to see, because, you know, I think the proposals are just completely out of range. If we would be able to maybe get extra roll-offs, perhaps we can invest in renting roll-offs and have time on weekends to bring our employees to come and help us do that, as we are working towards clearing that for a concentration on the weekend, and haul what we can during the weekend, and then leave for Monday for bringing over as an option, so that we can clear that. And then as we are working into that, perhaps there'll be a time when this other company that does the mulching could come in and finish up what is left, just so that we are working towards it, because I think it's extremely important that that be being addressed now, so that we can eventually open it up again for the residents. Can we take I mean, I'm suggesting to this commission that we look at it that way. I don't think we have $1 million or 700,000 to address that with. So if we can do that, and then reach out to that company again, if it's March, we're a few weeks away.
Right.
Find out if the feasibility of them coming in, by knowing, and they had to look at that area and see if that quote is still, 90,000 to just do mulching and we take the mulch out. That's definitely much more feasible than $1 million. And then maybe if we needed extra containers, we could also, we could reach out to the county for maybe assistance during the weekends, some of the equipment they do have.
And that's something that we talked about, Ms. Gonzalez and I.
Okay.
Because apparently before, that was something that was done, and we just talked about it right before the meeting. So, yes, most definitely, we're gonna be reaching out to the county. Maybe they can rent us or lend us some of the roll-off containers, maybe even the equipment,
Yeah,
you know? But we're gonna be definitely reaching out to the county as well.
okay. And I think that that's what the option would be. We can just get on that option as quickly as we can, because I know they're working on it as we speak, and then continue. Now, one of the things I wanted to touch on, one of the mentions of the staff that we had, that you're saying, and we go and pick up trash and the garbage, and we're done by 1 o'clock, and I don't know if that's still
That is still the case.
the case. Is there a possibility, could these folks, would they be able, and I know we said want to keep them separate, but would they be able in this time of need to help us on the holding area?
We can look into it, because it's not only about the trucks, it's about our, what do you call those, the grapplers, or whatever you call it, the piece of equipment.
And that might be the one we
How ma-
rent?
Right, how many that we have. If we need to rent another one, or
If we
maybe a
need to
couple
rent.
of them, we'll look into that.
And therefore, they work until what time? What time would their shift be over?
They only work the 8-hour shift, which is, I mean, they come in at like 6:30 in the morning, so they leave by maybe 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Okay, 3 o'clock, so we'd
Right.
have about an hour and a half.
Right.
If
But
we
if,
had containers and just be using the grappler to.
but with your permission, I mean, we can have them work till 5. The only thing is we don't want to do it like every single day, because, but we can do
Or
some.
weekends,
yeah,
or
we can do
when
some
we're not taking
overtime.
them away from their regular duty, so they can still service. So can you come back and look at that?
Sure, and another, I guess another solution or another option is that on Fridays, our staff, I mean, we're not picking up trash anymore like we used to before.
Okay.
You know, it's only Monday to Thursday.
Okay.
We can definitely designate and dedicate that particular day, Friday, and half a day on
Saturday.
Saturday to, you know, once we rent the equipment and then the roll-off containers and all, so we can put them there, and maybe whatever we can haul back to the landfill, we can do it on that day and a half. Sure, we can look into that.
Absolutely. And then that would also, if we know that we're going to have the extra manpower for those possibly 2 days, that we can work that out, then we can leave our folks working the streets.
Right.
So that we'll know that they continue doing what they're doing, and we'll have the time concentration on filling on to that. And then you'll update us as to any kind of deadlines that become.
Sure.
Okay, so I'd like to see that as quickly as possible on the next one as well. So, I mean, I would recommend there be no action on this particular item. G, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into interlocal agreement with Hidalgo County Precinct 2 for roadways. Mr. Arjona.
Yes, this is with the Hidalgo County. Unfortunately, Mr. Eddie Cantu or Mr. Mandu, they're not here. However, before you have the proposals. We have the reclamation of the different streets, and we have the San Antonio Road, which is from Moore Road to Sam Houston. And we have the Cesar Chavez from Business 83 to Carroll Street, and also Cesar Chavez from 495 all the way to the expressway. The reclamation and overlay of Sam Houston Road from the Stewart Road to Cesar Chavez, and the overlay of Sergeant Trevino Road from Raul Longoria to the west side of the Canal Siphon. Distance approximately 1380 linear feet, and reclamation overlay from the Paisano Drive to Retama, a distance of about 5,000 linear feet.
Now, on these, I know that it makes reference, council, to the interlocal cooperation agreement. Have you had a chance to look at that?
The one I have received, Mayor, kind of states it's what it is, but it's also, I know one of the issues or one of the things that the commission may have been concerned is about giving up money. The one I have, if that's the one that addresses this, it's a reimbursement after the services are provided. That's the one I got from Mr. Juan.
Wasn't that the mutual aid agreement that,
Correct, but the one I received states that once services are provided, they
Oh,
are
I
to
see.
invoice the city within 30 days, because I know that was an initial concern. Then the other concern I have, and I guess maybe you're addressing, and what the recommendations are as to what streets should go first, it is not necessarily addressed in the interlocal, but just generally states that you all will do mutual work. So that's something that hopefully that the county will agree with, and y'all can proceed in that manner.
I believe when the county commissioner was here at the last meeting that we talked about this, he stated that he would look to the city to indicating what recommendations, that he would work on these, what recommendations as to what streets would be addressed.
And I believe the first one was supposed to be San Antonio, Cesar Chavez. Those were the first two.
And then also, when we look at the residential on the Sergeant Trevino,
Right.
one of the things that I did not see in here was we mentioned that if we could get the gap that belongs to the drainage project for Las Brechas or the Chaparrales, that small section, according to this map, does not include that. And in our discussion with the commissioner, we asked, or at least I remember asking, if that section there could be taken in by them, release that part of the money from the original project,
Right.
and that money that's allocated to the street be then redirected to the county so that they could do an overlay at that time, because it's no longer going to be the 3 lanes
The 4 lanes.
or the 4 lanes, whatever it's going to be. But to do that for that area, and stating in that, he thought that just in estimation, we might be looking about $100,000 to $150,000 released
Right.
if we were to do that. I know this does not reflect that. Did we go and talk about that in more detail? So if we were able to release between 100 to 150,000, then we can address some of the other residential areas that the county's not able to assist us in.
Right, and if I may, on the Los Chaparrales, just for the particular section of the road, the estimate came at 273,000+. So, but that was for doing the right-of-way acquisition, some curb and gutter, and different improvements on that. So obviously now, because it's just gonna be an overlay, it's not gonna take the 273,000. It'll probably be like around anywhere between 140 and 150. So that'll free up those monies for one of the subdivisions, or maybe some other road improvements or drainage improvements that we may have.
So how, I mean, if we were to, as we approve this, I know that every letter states, as soon as you're ready or you're in agreement, then sign it and hand over a check.
After the services are completed, or is that before?
Well, the interlocal states that within 30 days after services, the city is to reimburse the county. That's what the interlocal says.
So then we will sign as completed. There's not-
Per street?
The way they did it is
Right.
it's
Per street.
Per street.
Yeah.
So it
Now,
depends how they're
now,
gonna
the
do it.
commission decides which street goes first.
And that's what
then-
we're discussing, and
Yeah.
it's not in the interlocal, but if those were the communications or what was had before, I'm sure Commissioner Cantu will respect it.
So in the motion for approval of what is presented, based on what you have interpreted, that we would go project by project as completed, then can the motion also state the order of the streets, and what Mr. Jonas has stated would be as, from the last discussion was San Antonio first, Cesar, Sergeant Trevino, if it can free up, if y'all able to get to that.
And if we could, I think one of the discussion was that if we were to wait when that Chaparrales subdivision was getting the improvements, then we're looking to doing it at the same time. So the equipment is there, the people are there, so they'll be.
How quickly are we going to start on Sergeant Trevino?
I can answer that, ma'am.
Okay, so we would have Sergeant Trevino and then the Sam Houston?
Sam Houston. Or we can leave those two at the end, so either or.
Okay, with Sergeant Trevino, Sam Houston being
Depending on where they're at the project.
flexible as
Yes.
to the progress of the existing project
Correct.
in Las Chaparrales.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect? It's been moved and second. I had 2 people move. I heard Commissioner Garza and Commissioner Ramirez, first and second. All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay. A Consent agenda, approval of minutes, December 30th, 2015, January 4th, January 12th, January 22nd of 2016. Is any item need to be pulled from that consent agenda? If not, is there a motion for approval? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is there a second? All in favor state aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned at 7:33.